you don't want to waste money on the Braun Immersion blender, stop scrolling through endless options. We've already narrowed it down and found the ones that are entirely worth your attention. These blenders deliver the power, control, and convenience that makes cooking faster, smoother, and a lot less frustrating. And to find them, we spent thousands of dollars testing nearly 40 of the most popular and best-selling immersion blenders on the market. Prices range from around $15 to $200. Some were basic models, while others came with extras like a whisk, a food processor, or a blending cup. Speed options vary too, from just one setting all the way up to 12, which gave us a strong mix of models for different types of users. And in total, there are 5 different tests, including hot soup puree, frozen fruit smoothie, mayonnaise, almond milk, and whipped egg whites. These are some of the most common things you actually use an immersion blender for, so the results are much closer to what you can expect in the real kitchen. And since every blender was put through the same testing process and evaluated as consistently as possible, you can also trust the results are fair, unbiased, and based on actual performance. So after all that, here are the 6 best immersion blenders that will never let you down. First up, the Braun MQ5025 MultiQuick Vario. Next, the Vitamix 5 Speed. And here, the Turelar 5-in-1. We also have the Braun MultiQuick 7 and the Ninja Foodi Power Mixer System Blender. And finally, the KitchenAid Cordless Hand Blender. I'm Tina and welcome back to our Shouldit Blender series. Number 1. Braun MQ5025 MultiQuick Vario Best to Buy. Rather than trying to impress with polished design, this blender keeps things practical. You get a 400-watt motor, 21 speed settings, a lightweight footprint, and a couple of useful attachments that add some extra versatility beyond basic blending. For something built around everyday convenience, it does a pretty convincing job. With soup, it just felt easy. You move it around the pot and everything quickly turns smooth without splashing or sticking. Smoothies push it a little, but it still made it through in about 2 minutes. It wasn't as fast as higher-end models, but the result was still nicely blended with minimal leftover texture. Making mayonnaise also felt very steady. The mixture thickened as we went, turning into something rich and really creamy in around 1 minute. And if nut milk is something you make often, this Braun MultiQuick Vario can handle it pretty well too. It broke everything down nicely in under a minute, producing a silky, well-rounded drink without much resistance thanks to its pear-shaped anti-suction design. The final test was egg whites with the whisk attachment, and this was one of the more impressive results. In under 2 minutes, it created a light, airy foam that stayed nicely in shape. So overall, we ended up giving it a 8.1 out of 10 for performance. That's a strong score, but what we like here went beyond performance alone. At around 9 inches, the blending shaft lets you access the deep heat pots effortlessly, paired with the slip-proof silicone-coated housing and the ergonomic handle. It ensures a comfortable grip, so you won't get tired hands along the way. The easy click release buttons are also a nice touch, allowing you to switch out accessories with minimal fuss. Just so you know, the materials themselves aren't anything special, and a few small scratches show up during testing, but those cosmetic issues never got in the way of how well it worked. So at number 1 is the Braun MQ5025 MultiQuick variant, which we rank as the best to buy immersion blender. For anyone wanting a versatile hand blender without paying premium money, this is the one we recommend. Number 2, Vitamix 5-Speed Immersion Blender, Upright Pick. This is the most expensive immersion blender in the lineup, but it clearly presents itself as a high-end option for people who care about premium build quality and a more elevated design. From the full stainless steel body to the 625-watt motor, everything about it feels sturdier, more durable, and more serious than most of the other models we tested. Its Braun blade is another standout feature, since the extra bronze create more contact with the ingredients, which can help improve blending efficiency. You also get 5 speed settings and a clear LED display, so it is simpler to adjust the power and stay in control while you blend. In testing, soup was one of its strongest results. In just 30 seconds, it turned hot soup into an exceptionally smooth puree with no noticeable chunks left behind. And it did that without suctioning itself to the bottom or making a mess. And it finished our frozen fruit smoothie in 1 minute and 5 seconds, which was much faster than most. The final texture was exactly what we wanted. It was thick, creamy, and completely free of solids. Mayonnaise was also pretty good. It looked thick, spreadable, and required 1 minute and 40 seconds to complete, though suction made the process a little more tiring. Almond milk was also fast at just 40 seconds, and the flavor came out rich with a naturally nutty taste. Just so you know, its blade guard did trap some almond skins and caused a bit of splatter. And for whipped egg whites, it completely failed simply because there is no wood attachment. So all things considered, it came out at 8.6 out of 10. This Vitamix also does a great job of feeling both durable and easy to use. Even after repeated testing, its stainless steel body still looks polished with no scratches or cosmetic damage. We really like how simple the control layout is, and thanks to the LED speed display, you can quickly see your setting instead of relying on guesswork. And even though it's relatively heavy, the rubber-coated ergonomic handle makes it comfortable to hold. The bell-shaped guard also helps cut down on suction and gives you better control. So at number 2 is the Vitamix 5-Speed, which we rank as the best upgrade. If you want top-tier power and you care more about long-term quality than extra accessories, you really can't go wrong with this immersion blender. Number 3, Turelar 5-in-1 1100-watt hand blender, best purchase. This one gives you a lot for the money. At around $40, it comes as a 5-in-1 set, so you're getting much more than just the blender itself. Aside from the blending shaft, you also get a whisk, a milk frother, a food processor attachment, and a beaker, which makes it a practical choice for a smaller kitchen where versatility matters. And with a stainless steel exterior, it has a sleeker, more upscale look than several budget models with plastic bodies. On top of that, it uses a variable speed trigger instead of standard buttons, so you can adjust the speed more naturally as you blend. As for its testing performance, this immersion blender was average at best. It made a reasonable smooth puree with very little mess in 30 seconds, and the process felt steady and controlled. Almond milk also turned out pretty well, finishing in 1 minute and 20 seconds with a very fine result, although splashing became a problem as the liquid got thinner. Mayonnaise took 1 minute and a half, but we only got there on the second try because at first we hadn't fully figured out how to keep the trigger at its lowest speed. After that, it came together properly, but the final texture was still slightly thin. The biggest disappointment was the frozen fruit smoothie taste. Even after 3 minutes, the result was still very coarse, with lots of unblended fruit remaining intact. On the flip side, whipped egg whites were actually its best outcome. With the whisk attachment, it reached steep peaks in 1 minute and 50 seconds, which is a strong showing for this price. So taking everything into account, we gave it a performance score of 5.5 out of 10. That's not an especially high score, but for the price, it still offers decent value if you mainly need it for a lighter everyday task. For its design and usability, there are also a few compromises. It has a stainless steel construction that feels solid even if the overall body is a bit bulky. The long shaft is also useful, especially when you're landing in deeper pots or taller containers. Plus, it's simple to assemble, comfortable enough to hold, and easy to clean most of the time. That said, the trigger feels a little flimsy and the smaller blending head can clog with dense ingredients. But if you can live with a few trade-offs and you want an affordable blender with useful extras, this is still a nice blender to have. Number 4. Braun MultiQuick 7 Handheld Blender. Best Performance. The Braun MultiQuick 7 is a more advanced version of the MultiQuick 5 with some useful upgrades. And the biggest selling point here is active flake technology, which lets the blade move up and down instead of just spinning in place. Braun says this creates a 250% more active cutting surface. You also get a pear-shaped guard that cuts suction by 25%, which helps reduce bladder and improve control. And with a 500-watt motor, an ergonomic design, and extra attachments, it comes across as a very feature-rich package. Now, performance-wise, it makes a great first impression in the suitcase, producing an ultra-silky puree with very little effort. The frozen fruit smoothie result was equally impressive, with kale, pineapple, and mango blending into a balanced drink in 1 minute and 10 seconds. It also delivered a strong result in the almond milk taste, where it finished in 1 minute and gave us a creamy texture with natural sweetness. Whipped egg whites were another strong area. Actually, it wasn't the fastest, but the texture it produced was stable, airy, and very well done. The only weaker result was mayonnaise. It held together and stayed smooth, but at 2 minutes, it was slower than some rivals, and the final texture leaned a little thin and oily. Even so, the overall picture here is very strong, so we gave it a performance score of 8.3 out of 10. Of course, it's not just strong in testing, but it's also a very well-designed blender. It has a catchy look, a slim and comfortable grip, and a long shaft that works well in different container sizes. The blending experience also feels more controlled thanks to the reduced suction splat limiting guard and softer acceleration. The one-bottom design also keeps things simple for one-handed use, while the quick-release attachments are easy to click on and remove. They are easy to rinse clean too. This thing has just about everything we're looking for. Fast, versatile, and smooth to use. It's an easy recommendation for anyone who wants strong performance without giving up convenience. Number 5. Ninja Foodi Power Mixer System Blender. Best Combo. This tool works as both a hand blender and a hand mixer, so instead of buying multiple appliances, you get one machine that can mix, whisk, and even knead. The promise here is simple: powerful performance, multi-function, and less clutter in your kitchen. When we tested it on pureeing, the result was excellent. As soon as it started, it pulled the ingredients inward and created a steady flow, throwing everything down into the blades and smoothing it out quickly into a very even texture. The frozen fruit smoothie also came out nicely blended. Even tough ingredients like kale were blended down pretty smoothly, though the full process took close to 3 minutes. But to be fair, we should note that this was partly due to our own choice of container, as the cup was narrower than the blending head and restricted movement inside. Now in the third test, we made mayonnaise with the Ninja Foodi's quick attachment, which finished in 1 minute and 45 seconds. That's not especially fast, but still reasonable. And the emulsion held well, but the texture was slightly oilier than ideal. And on almond milk, turbo malt gave us a strong but controlled blend, so the milk came out with a rich nutty flavor that we really enjoy drinking. So after factoring in all 5 tests, the performance score of the Ninja Foodi was 8.4 out of 10. And now we have to admit that the Ninja Foodi brings a more premium feel than the average immersion blender. It gives you useful control whether you are blending or mixing, and the non-metal guard does a good job reducing splashing while also being gentle on cookware. So at number 5 is the Ninja Foodi, which we rank as the best combo immersion blender. For those looking for a more versatile and powerful all-in-one solution, this is one of the more complete options you can go for. Number 6. KitchenAid Cordless Hand Blender, Best Portable. The product really stands out for the freedom it gives you. Basically, it's a real plus for anyone who values flexibility in the kitchen. With no cord holding you back, it's much easier to blend whenever it feels most convenient, whether that's around the house or outside of your usual setup. With a full 2-hour charge, the battery can last for around 25 medium bowls of soup, and a short 20-minute boost is enough for a quick blend. As for its performance, it handles some tasks better than others in our testing. Soup was one of the better ones, taking only 30 seconds to turn everything into a chunk-free puree, with only slight suction along the way. Smoothies were another strong result. In around a minute, it brought down frozen fruit into a silky drink. The only problem was that we had to guide it quite actively and clean the blades a few times during the process. Mayonnaise was fine, just not especially exciting. At nearly 2 minutes, it was on the slower side, and the consistency was smooth enough to use but a little thin. For almond milk, the result was acceptable. It finished in about 50 seconds, but the texture stayed a little coarse and too much air got worked in, so the flavor didn't come through as fully as we hoped. Now, just like the Vitamix 5 Speed, this KitchenAid lifts out a whisk attachment, which makes egg whites a clear weak point. So with all 5 tests considered, the KitchenAid Cordless Hand Blender received a 7.9 out of 10 for performance. Of course, performance is important, but so is the experience of using it. And in that respect, the KitchenAid has a lot going for it. It feels nicely weighty, and we like the extra reach that came from its long blending shaft. What also makes it different from most other blenders is the trigger control, where speed depends on how hard you press. Just be aware that its metal guard could stretch your cookware, and sometimes the suction could be annoying. This blender also skips the release button, so taking the attachment off usually takes more effort than usual, particularly with wet or oily hands. So at number 6 is the Cordless KitchenAid, which we rank as the best portable hand blender. For those who value mobility just as much as blending performance, this is the one to look at. So this is our list of the best immersion blenders along with a quick review on their qualities. If you're interested in buying any of these blenders, we have the links in the description for all of them. We also put together an article and a video on how we rank our testing, so those are down below too. If you enjoy this, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss our next upload. Thanks for watching Shouldit, and see you in the next one. Bye!